This is Chris Chatmon, and you are watching Breaking Bread with our host, Stacy Smith.
Hello, my name is Stacy Smith, and welcome to Breaking Bread. Breaking Bread is an opportunity that we have taken at Kingmakers of Oakland to have conversations and share insights about the work that the community has done to come together to change the lives of Black students, Black children in every aspect of their life. I have the esteemed honor of sitting today hearing from Chris Chatmon, the CEO and founder of Kingmakers of Oakland, an organization that is committed to extending the work that was started at OUSD through the African American Male Achievement Program beyond the city of Oakland, beyond the classroom. And we're so glad to have you here today. Chris, welcome, and thank you for sitting down with me today.
Excellent. Thank you, Stacy, for your love, your light, and the opportunity just to share a little bit about who I am, whose I am, and the impetus behind Kingmakers of Oakland.
Thank you. And that's right in alignment. Our organization is foundationally carrying the belief that Black children, Black boys have an innate brilliance and beauty that is often overlooked in the world today, highlighting only the negative. And I'd love to hear your perspective and your experience, your story of making sure we're sharing who you are and whose you are, because that's important for our students and young people to know so they can know who they are as they go forward in life. Please share what that has been from your lens.
Ashe. Yeah, I think this idea of understanding who and whose you are really is unlocking and tapping into that ancestral intelligence that our forefathers and foremothers really left within us, a DNA of a blueprint on how to actualize greatness. And understanding who you are and whose you are puts you in right relationship and the ability to kind of draw out all that is within you. And so, as the founder and CEO of Kingmakers of Oakland, that really captures my own trajectory of navigating the public school system, navigating this ecosystem within this country that really has disguised the vegetables, so to speak, in many ways of not allowing me to understand who I was. And I had to learn that in other ways, through rites of passage programs, through the untold history. And as I've done that and been able to do that in my evolution, it really allowed me to take my crown out my pocket and rock it. And so, we're trying to carry that forward now within this organization to really reimagine systems, structures, cultures, and conditions that help accelerate how Black boys in particular see themselves, their understanding that they come from a rich tradition, an African tradition, a Pan-African tradition, where we come from greatness. And in knowing that, I truly believe then our young kings in particular can actualize all that life has to give. And so that is born through my own struggle and understanding how to navigate that through the school system and through community, and now being in a position to pave that forward and creating an organization that centers Black boys around understanding who and whose they are, and really taps into that creative, imaginative superpower that accelerates the opportunity of them going farther, faster in understanding their past, their present, so they can actualize their future. And so, thank you for giving me the opportunity to share a little bit about who I am and where that comes from. But that's our journey.
I love it. A couple of things really resonated when you spoke about ancestral intelligence in the world of AI taking over. That brings a whole new meaning to that term, and really just knowing that this was from a personal experience that built its way out. And it really leads me to the next question of where did the idea, what was the vision? I really, when you first thought of Kingmakers, if you can take us back, if you can recall, what were your thoughts? What was the feeling that made this come into fruition and be manifested?
Yeah, and I appreciate the question. Yet, I didn't grow up wanting to be the founder of Kingmakers of Oakland. I think on that, I think it's been my evolution as a black man, as a black father, as a servant-oriented practitioner. That what I was clear about as I navigated the public school system was that I wanted to grow up and be a transformative teacher. And so, and I was able then to get out of the public school system, get my degree, and be in a position to do just that. And in that presence and opportunity of being a transformative educator, and teaching really at K-8 PE and high school, then Thurgood Marshall Academic High School was a brand new high school at the time. What I began to see is my gift of helping and curating a space where all of the young people in that class can understand the power of understanding who and whose they are, the ability then to go after that content, bring it forward, so they all can lift their head up and see that they come from greatness. I realized that I had a gift in curating that space and wanted to actually share that gift with more folks. And unfortunately, within the school context, the principal at the time really wanted me just to stay within the classroom context. And I felt I wanted to have greater impact. And so I left teaching to then look at ways where I can kind of accelerate and work with adults on how to create the condition, the system and structure in classrooms that centered black children, that actually served all, and begin to tell new narratives. I think the thing that was most humbling in teaching in the public school system, and when I was teaching at Thurgood Marshall, I had all primarily African American, Latino, Chicano, Asian Pacific Islander students. And when we did our first activity in the very first day of school of acknowledging who were the most influential people in history, in her story, and, mind you, they had history classes from kindergarten all the way at that point through ninth grade. What became absolutely real was when they identified who those top 10 people were throughout time, 99% of the people that they identified were were white men. And the first time I got written up was in my first period modern world history course when all 40 students wrote on the wall, and we had 49 white men and only one person of color. I said, take your history book out and throw it out the window, because we're going to learn a different history. Yes. And we've done a disservice to you in your public school education if you have a sense of the folks that have contributed to this country, to history, were white men, then you really don't know the history. And so we collectively then would go after lifting up the understanding and the importance of understanding who you are, who we are collectively. And I've been on that journey ever since. And so in the spirit of leaving the classroom, then running a nonprofit organization at that point was called Day School Summer Bridge. Then went to the YMCA, where I got to take the importance of education, but through a community standpoint. I began to realize that our learning was necessary and insufficient if it was just limited to school day experiences. And most of my kind of most rapid learning really came in Boys and Girls Club, came in summer camp, came in Park and Rec. But I began to learn the power and the balance of what needs to happen in schools, and when that's connected to what needs to happen in community, we all win and we go farther faster. And so had the opportunity in 2010, as I was appointed by then Superintendent Dr. Anthony Smith, to be the first executive director of its kind of a department that was centered on black boys and their education from preschool through 12th grade, and really create a plan that would address the system, structure, culture, and condition that would lead to improved educational and life outcomes of black boys. And that was 2010. As we were doing that work and beginning to expand that work, this moniker of referring to black boys as kings was not ours. Really, in that first year, I took a group of staff and students to go visit an amazing program in Southern California. And there was an amazing brother named Fluker that was doing programs in South Central Los Angeles, and he referred to all of his students, who are all black, as kings and queens. And so my kind of first introduction at scale as a strategy of referring to black students as kings and queens really came from him, kind of system-wide. And then one of the principals here within Oakland Unified School District was a middle school principal. And at his school, he had gone to that training several years before, but he referred to his students as kings and queens. And so we adopted that and really just scaled with it. And our first documentary that some extraordinary griots and filmmakers within Oakland began to see that what we were doing was transcending not only Oakland, but districts across the country. They did a documentary on us, Brother Cheo, Brother Shaka, and Brother Judd. And the title of that film was called Kingmakers of Oakland. And so although we were in the Office of African American Male Achievement in district, the name Kingmakers of Oakland really was born within that. And as we grew and evolved to then become our own independent nonprofit organization, that name, Kingmakers of Oakland, was something that we wanted to carry forward to kind of capture the past, but also help prime and frame the future. And so that's where that name came from. But it was the collective genius of many. I won't take credit. I was just paying attention to how youth were feeling based on being referred to as kings, and other folks who actually really acknowledged the power and the importance of that within smaller ecosystems, and then really accelerated that and built off of that with our now independent national organization, Kingmakers of Oakland.
I love that. What I'm hearing is it's a living organism. The idea of tapping into every aspect of the lives. Obviously, children spend most of their time in school, but the aspect of broadening that touch and that reach really brings me to asking about where we are today. When you call somebody royalty, they're going to sit differently.
That's right.
And question their misconceptions of what they thought they were or how they were living beneath that. So I love that, and just being observant. But in the space where Kingmakers of Oakland is today, in the present, can you tell a little bit more about how that reach looks and feels in the spaces that Kingmakers of Oakland is in 2024?
Sure. Well, I'd like to say and frame the Kingmakers of Oakland now is on really an international paper route where we're really trying to reclaim our history, our knowledge, our resource, and our beauty and brilliance that has been within us. And that work is global. And so part of that reclamation is owning land, is having access to rich, deep content of information in the math and sciences and social studies, in literature. And so we are a vehicle in many ways that's really trying to just accelerate our access to the past, so we can not only reclaim where we've been, but redefine this extraordinary future that centers the possibilities of greatness. And so we're just really a vessel that is really trying to draw back of once was, activate that agency, and create more vehicles for our young kings from birth to sunset to tap into that greatness. And so they can be whatever it is that they choose to be and have access to rich and extraordinary asset-based content, have access to social capital, expansive networks, and beautiful people throughout the diaspora. And so I sit here today now not only as the founder and CEO, but the operator of a 10,000 square foot facility, which is our Coolabs Design Center and Production House, which really provides an opportunity for our young kings, queens, and non-binary royalty within the diaspora to actually tell stories, asset-based stories, to learn the technology, so the behind the scenes, but also curate content in the area of music, film, animation, design. And so excited about that from a workforce development standpoint, from an access to creating and curating information, and a place that we own. As we see in this public school system, that we had this opportunity during the pandemic where there was a moment where we thought the system would recalibrate in service of supporting those furthest from opportunity and really valuing and validating the narratives of folks of color. And now there's been a retrenchment of going back, even back to the 70s and the 80s, where our narratives were really couched and not lifted up through the banning of books in the southern United States, or the kind of watering down of African-centered narratives through even ethnic studies. And so when we own our land and we create and curate our content, then there really is no stopping to the possibilities of what our people can do. And so thinking about that as this is the first stop, and then we look at acquiring 300 acres in Mendocino County to accelerate this understanding of our proximity to the earth, to the proximity of nature, where we can get out of this built environment that, generally speaking, is toxic. We have some of the highest coronary heart disease, type 2 diabetes, all of these things that we've come up now in these urban environments. We have limited access to healthy diets. We have limited access to positive narratives through television, where usually our environments are our neighborhoods are built between freeways, high crime, toxic, from the trucks and all these just different, the things that impact who we are. Going to camp is going to be important because it gets us out of that environment. And we can take that, all of the information that we know and hold to be true, and really get back to, how we share that, and how we heal and get right with nature. And so having the camp is part of our vision, and then moving globally, because what's happening in this country is happening really across the planet, and how we could tap in to brothers and sisters throughout the diaspora and normalize travel as part of, that's what we do. That's what we do. We didn't have any lines of demarcation. We didn't have borders. We've always been a global people that have moved at the pleasure of our own will. And if Kingmakers of Oakland can be a conduit and connect to other folks that are doing diasporic work, that can access the what we have here in Cool Labs, that can access our camp, then we can just be a pipeline that are helping kings and queens throughout the diaspora take their crowns out their pocket and rock it. And so this is legacy work. I'm just blessed to be really a vessel to help, kind of bring up some of these things, nothing new, and pave it forward for the next generation, really to go farther, faster. And so that's some of the work we're doing now. That's place-based, in terms of what we're doing here in Oakland and the Bay Area. We're going to continue to scale out our work with schools, but that won't just be limited to the school system within the continental United States, but looking at the Caribbean, Central and South America, as well as countries in Africa. How do we begin to tap into the education, the ways that we educate children of color, and specifically black boys and black girls, in a way that understand that we come from a rich legacy that influenced all of the different aspects of content through math, science, language arts, and social studies. And so, we just want to be a vehicle and a conduit and stay tapped in globally. So that's some of the things we're doing, and excited about our board, excited about our staff, and excited about the possibilities of how we reclaim really what was once ours, and with what is within all of us.
That is amazing and exciting. And what I hear in that is it's a form of reparation from the inside out. We're repairing our identity. We're repairing our ability to survive, our ability to sustain life and not be relegated to this tiny little box, going back to our indigenous roots that are from the land, and being able to tap into that and own that through learning skills that have been ripped away from us.
That's right.
So it's so exciting to hear that that's happening with young people through the broad reach that Kingmakers of Oakland is, Kingmakers Global. And that really matters in all the countries where we're seeing the repeat offense through the ecosystems that were not created for us to survive and sustain life.
That's right.
So as we look at where we are now, how do students get access to the things that are children, young people, beyond high school? What offerings does Kingmakers have for for the community today.
Yeah, no.
Broaden it because as children learn, parents are learning as well.
That's right. That's right. And our approach in centering Black children in particular, while we serve all, really is through a multiracial, intergenerational, cross-sector approach. That this isn't just the struggle and the responsibility of folks throughout the diaspora, that everyone has a role in this. And we invite everyone to have a role in how we center Black boys in particular and serve all. And so our service delivery model is kind of based in 4 different buckets. Our first bucket, and given the origin of the organization, being born out of a school system, really is our school service delivery bucket. In that domain, we work with schools across the country. We're radical locally, in particular here in Oakland, San Francisco, and our next kind of level or tier of depth is in King County, Seattle Public Schools. But that work really is around kind of 6 domains. The first domain is around recruiting, training, and retaining Black male teachers. We know that the data not only suggests, but actually is codified to show that a Black male teacher not only has a direct impact on the efficacy and the academic success of Black children, but all children that have access to a Black teacher, and in particular a Black male teacher, actually will show an increase in attendance and academic performance. And so we have a set of supports in that domain around recruiting, teacher certification, and retention that we're building out to work with schools and communities to engage in particular Black male teachers, but also Black teachers, to see teaching as not only their responsibility, but probably one of the most valued and loved professions that anyone can go in. And so we're working with them around how to just navigate that system, but also to become a lifelong educator. So that's one domain. Our second domain around work within school systems is around culturally responsive curriculum and pedagogy. That, again, as we opened, if children don't know who and whose they are, then they can never really take their crowns at their pocket and rock it and access what our ancestors have sacrificed for us, those superpowers. And so the idea of our young kings, preschool through PhD, understanding the impact of Africans throughout the diaspora, through math, through science, through language arts and social studies, is imperative to accelerating the academic performance of, again, not just Black boys and Black girls and Black children, but all children benefit from understanding that knowledge, in particular given our values. But we have a team that is developing that curriculum. And so that's an area that we work with. We provide the curriculum, we do facilitate professional learning communities, and we support schools and teachers and communities around that. The third domain around our work of centering Black boys and addressing this toxic ecosystem is kind of the frame that we work with, really is around youth voice and youth leadership. And what we found in our audit and working with schools across the country is 2 things. One, the more melanin you have in your skin, the fewer authentic leadership opportunities you have to lead, speak truth to power, and know how to advocate when something's wrong. How do you do that to change what's wrong? And then it's all based on meritocracy, meaning then that in centering Black boys, that the ones that have access to leadership opportunities are ones whose disposition lends itself to the system and structure that public school system has been established on, and that is more traditional Eurocentric ways of learning. And so those youth who are good at memorization and repeating that or reciting that information tend to excel a little better. And not to say that that is the best or the only way, but that meritocracy, the system then that privileges those young kings then that have a high GPA or do standardized tests well and have conformed to the numbing of that creative and imaginative spirit, then have access to leadership opportunities. And that is unfortunate. And so Kingmakers of Oakland, through our youth voice and leadership driver is what we call it, work with schools and communities to accelerate the voice and the lived experience of Black boys. We accelerate leadership opportunities. not just locally, but also globally as a way for all Kings to build agency, understand the processes, the systems and structures that keep some down and accelerate others.
Yeah.
And so we work with folk on how to do that. The fourth domain is around family and community engagement, and that's seeing Black families as assets, seeing and understanding the infrastructure and the beauty and brilliance that's located within Black communities, how schools then navigate and align with those assets so their children within those schools can go farther faster. So that's our fourth driver, the fourth bucket, and we work with schools around that domain. The fifth domain is around narrative change. And not only is it a school driver, it is a driver for our entire organization, because we really believe that whoever controls the narrative in this country and globally has the power. And unfortunately, history has evolved itself in such a way that everything that is Black and of melanin is framed in the English language as something that is deficit and negative. Right. And we want to rewrite that narrative that Black is beautiful and that our kings come from an extraordinary legacy that actually has influenced all cultures throughout the planet. And it's important that we begin to prime people, teachers, schools, and community around the importance of owning your own story and elevating stories that shine a light on our beauty, on our brilliance, and our innate greatness, as opposed to normalizing failure and narratives that are always doom and gloom or connected to negative aspects. And so we've learned that public school systems do two things well when it comes to communication, and that's crisis communication and reactionary communication. But they don't communicate the vision. They don't communicate the promise and power of potential that Black boys and Black communities come from. And so that is the fifth driver of which we work with schools around changing that narrative and elevating the stories and the lived experience of Black boys and the people that support them. The sixth area that we work with schools around is around policy. And we have a slightly different way, although policy is that which binds all of these different things, but it is necessary and insufficient if the culture runs counter to to policy. But our way into policy is through the process called youth participatory action research that centers, in particular, Black boys, gives them a research methodology that elevates their voice, that begins to interview folks through this multiracial, intergenerational, cross-sectional standpoint, that then they then lead conversations as opposed to being passive recipients or tokenized, getting policy statements on the back end. They're driving, cultivating, writing the policy, and then getting it approved. And so those are the six domains that we work with school districts. The second domain that we work with kind of addressing this toxic ecosystem is understanding the power of proximity, and having now a place-based approach. Our Cool Labs Design Center and Production House gives us an opportunity to engage middle and high school kings, gives us an opportunity to do concurrent enrollment. And so the aspiration is youth that come through here and participate in our programs can actually get concurrent enrollment through the community college system, as well as access and get paid, and teaching them that you can be and do whatever you want to do, knowing that you want to have multiple revenue streams. And so our hope and goal is also to develop entrepreneurial skills where our young kings can do whatever they can want to do and not be dependent on that one revenue stream, because they know how to approach other ways to generate money. So if they want to go into teaching, they can actually stay in teaching, because they're generating other revenue streams. And so the place-based approach also gives us the opportunity, when districts' systems of oppression self-correct, as we've seen, and when they purge some of these things, we actually can still do our content, do all of our drivers, all of our work, because we own our masters, we own our curriculum, we own our facility, and it allows us to offer services really 24/7, 365. And so we want to continue to expand the products and services that we're doing here that center Black boys and really cultivate that superpower within us that public school systems really quail beyond kindergarten, and that's creativity and imagination. We want to be a place and seen as a place that all folks throughout the diaspora can come in and accelerate the power of creativity and imagination through having a design-centric production house. The third area really is our 40 acres and a mule plus interest in the spirit of what you said around reparations, and that is the 300 acres in Mendocino County. Gives us a place where we can get in better alignment with nature, get off the grid, learn how to garden, understand the power of the stars, go on night hikes, have conversations at campfire. All these different things are intangibles that in the built city urban environment that we've lost the ability to really understand the power of that, and that actually unlocks that AI, that ancestral intelligence, the ability actually to see through and speak with the stars unlocks that Afrofuturism that is innately a part of who we are. And so having that camp is just another way where not only our children and the adults can go from rites of passage to outdoor ed to summer camp to professional development, but so few of folks within our community have access just to go camping or to be at a beautiful facility from a standpoint of vacation. And so part of capitalism and Eurocentricity and this culture within America is just go. And there's not the balance of rest. And it is through rest that you're able to tap into that superpower, that ancestral intelligence that allows us all to go farther, faster. So having the camp is an extraordinary opportunity for us to heal, to develop our spirit, mind, and body, and come together. Again, not just for folks in the Bay Area, but globally. And then in closing, kind of the fourth domain that we're just going to continue to thread, because we want to normalize that part of what we do is we're global, and beginning to build in from pre-K to the time that we sunset is we're traveling throughout the diaspora, and we're making connections, and we're learning, and we're providing, and we're getting poured back into. But this idea of moving in this kind of global ether and kind of jet stream of abundance. When you travel and you see other cultures and experience other languages globally, it just accelerates the possibility of everything that's possible. And so that's something, that exposure for Africans in America to understand the beauty, brilliance, and potential to travel and meet other Africans throughout the diaspora that are in all of the different continents. That is another aspect of our evolution. And I believe in doing that, we'll be better off. And so that's the journey that Kingmakers of Oakland is on, not in isolation. We go farther, faster together. So we're looking to partner with people of like mind and like spirit, organizations, cities, counties, and countries that get that and understand the power of that. So grateful for this opportunity to share with you today.
That's fantastic. And just, it's concentric circles. The ripple just spreads out. Everybody has to go to school. But then what else? What else touches the lives and the hearts of children and their families, and the growth that this whole vision you just painted offers is just outstanding and so needed.
I say.
Do you have events coming up that families and students and community leaders can participate in to touch and experience Kingmakers of Oakland?
Absolutely. I mean, we posit the cure is in the culture, and part of reclaiming our culture is through events. We have programs, we have the different areas I discussed, but the events are another way to bring people together, to shine a light on some of the routines, rituals, products and services, stories that then help us all collectively heal, network, deepen our relationship and go farther, faster. So some of the events that that we do within Kingmakers of Oakland. One is, I would say we've now curated some 25 Kings in the Making conferences that used to be called Man Up, but that one brings together in particular intergenerational men that center Black boys and less sage on stage, but guide on the side. And we model our pedagogy through different workshops and are able then just to pour into our young kings, that we see you, we hear you, and then disguise the vegetables through different workshops. But the goal is, coming out of the Kings in the Making conference, is for young kings to know you're not alone. And there's an extraordinary number of beautiful, brilliant Black men that do want to support. And so we just provide that opportunity from 2 to 4 times a year. We also do national convenings. In March and April, we do our spring symposium, which is another kind of all call where we provide a conference for teachers and for community leaders around our 6 drivers and the process that we center Black boys while serving all, or how we inoculate Black boys while we're addressing this toxic ecosystem. So it provides folks from around the country to learn the work that we do in schools and school districts. Also embedded now in the spring symposium in particular is our Grios event. So we also then showcase a book written by some 15 to as many as 25 young kings from Oakland that interview several hundred brothers, sisters in Oakland and through the Bay Area around their own lived experience. And that book then is an output of the narratives and lived experiences of Black boys and the people around them. And then the Grios becomes an event then that people can listen, hear, and see all of this rich culture and tradition within our community. So that Grios is a community event, and then we do our student showcase. And the student showcase is typically how we wrap up our spring symposium, where we basically show the collective genius of our young kings from preschool through high school. That kind of picture a science fair where all the presenters are young Black boys sharing what they've learned in math and science and social studies, in language arts, and through other aspects of curriculum that they're learning through us. But it is a place where our young kings can be seen, can be heard, can be valued, and also challenged. And so it's a place, much like we have these sports showcases, right, or maybe music showcases, we're trying to showcase the beauty, brilliance, and innate greatness and the diversity of Black boys. And so that's something that we do through our spring symposiums. In the fall, we've partnered up with an organization and a hip hop group called Hyro, and it's a 4-day music festival. And we are now adding to the Hyro Music Festival an education conference, knowing that the power of the pedagogy of hip hop is real, and folks are leveraging hip hop as a way to teach language arts, to teach science, to teach music, to teach film, all these different things. And so we're going to be doing a series of master classes and targeting practitioners on how to leverage hip hop from a teacher pedagogical standpoint. So more to come on that. That'll be Labor Day weekend. We also do crowning ceremonies, which are another event then that at the end of the school year, it's another ritual, much in the way that rites of passages, when kings demonstrate mastery in certain areas, they then go through a rites of passage ceremony to demonstrate where they have areas of mastery. And so for our crowning ceremonies at the end of the school year, typically May, June, kings that are in our direct service programs come together and they share. There's a demonstration, and then they get their crown, which is a Kingmakers of Oakland hat. And in some cases, they get a Letterman jacket like the one I'm rocking right now. And so that event is beautiful. It's powerful, and it's another way to really celebrate our young kings and counter, again, all of these negative things or these kind of typical narratives that our country perpetuates. We want to continue to ritualize that as well. We also do at the beginning of the school year, Black to School nights is another way to really target and engage our Black families, that many times what we and see how Black children experience schools Black parents are no different because they're carrying forward the trauma they experience in these schools, and then how schools react or respond to them. And so we have a set of strategies that engage and center Black families, just to socialize them and re-engage them around their school and the district on how to navigate and advocate for your son and access the many different things that district should be providing both you as a parent and your son. And so our Black to School nights are another kind of activation that works with parents as well to help them understand what are the resources for you, creating that kind of an affinity-based subgroup, support group that they all can support their children throughout the school year. There's other things our Black History Month Film Festival and other kind of nuanced things we do. But for now, check out our website where you can see all of this beautiful information at kingmakersofoakland.org for more information around our events.
That's fantastic. And to know that it's a living, breathing organism, as I said before, it just continues to expand and enrich the lives of the families, the Black boys and their families, the Black girls and their families to
That's right.
heal the trauma, the intergenerational trauma. Because if parents had a bad experience, they're going to pass that on to their kids.
That's right.
About perception of school. And it's hard for them to walk into that space and advocate for their children if they remember it being a horrible place. And it brings up those pain and issues and memories that are so embedded in how we function in the world. So this is just amazing and exciting to just see that this wraparound life service, redefining what family is. Family is whoever takes care of you.
That's right.
Whoever loves you. And to know that we can help facilitators and schools be part of that and let the classroom be that safe space and the lab be that safe space where students can come is fantastic. So thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for joining us today on Breaking Bread. Thank you for joining us in this space of just collaborating and sharing ideas and innovating what we can do in the lives of the young people we touch. Thank you for being a vessel of honor in that space. For more information on Breaking Bread, log on to kingmakersofoakland.org and all our social platforms. I'm your host, Stacy Smith. Come break bread with us again.
For more information, please check us out at kingmakersofoakland.org or come check us out at 1035 7th Street, Cool Labs Design Center Production House, Oakland, California. Thank you for watching. I'm Chris Chatmon, and have a great day the Kingmakers way.